practical problem. So if you have Alice and Bob who want to trade crypto assets, they can make an exchange contract on-chain, send the asset to this contract, and the contract can perform the exchange. And that's really simple. Everything stays on-chain, and that's entirely trustless. But now, if you have Alice and Bob who want to make an insurance contract about the weather. Alice is a farmer, and she wants to insure against the lack of rain for her crops. So they can put the money into a smart contract, but now the contract should resolve differently whether it was rainy or if it was sunny. And for people outside the chain, it's obvious that it was rainy, but there is no way for the chain to know that. Because nodes of the chain do not have any sensor. And even if we were pulling data from a website, we would have a problem to maintain consensus, because the website giving you the weather could give different results to different nodes, or even no result at all. So node could not maintain consensus. And even if the result stays the same, we would have a problem of history. When a new node comes into the system, the node will need to interact with other data sources in the past, which may not be available anymore. So for all of these reasons, we cannot have smart contract making call outside of the chain of their own. So now, like, is it really useful? Do we really need that to make most of the smart contract? I'd say yes. So the first use case, generally when you use a blockchain and you play with it, you make a gambling app. If you want to gamble on element outside the chain, you need to get an oracle. So here, that's a question about marble race. Yeah, that's a thing on the internet. And they answered which marble were qualified to some kind of championship of marbles. But we can have gambling, but we also have prediction markets, which look like a version of gambling, but they are way more interesting. So here we have the question, which city will have the highest median single-family home price for 2019? We can see, because of the share, because of the price of each share of the outcome, that Hong Kong have 39% chance of being this city. And that's interesting if you want to buy or sell real estate. You can get information from this market. That's also interesting if you want to deal with policies, because you could make a market asking the same question, but adding if this state policy is implemented. So which city will have the highest median single family home price for 2019 if this rent inflation policy is implemented? And now you get two markets and you get two probabilities for those different cities, and you can see what the market think about this particular policy and its outcome. So that's like gambling plus giving information to the outside world, and that's what makes it interesting. Financial derivatives, I think the most known is DAI with MakerDAO, which is a stablecoin. With MakerDAO, you need to be able to know the value of the underlying asset. So DAI is backed by ETH reserve, and we need to know what is the price of ETH in dollar to know when to liquidate smart contracts to close position, which becomes under-collateralized. Lending in corporate finance, if I want to put some ETH as a collateral to borrow some 0x, again, the chain needs to know what is the price of ETH labeled in 0x tokens to know if I'm collateralized enough or not for this loan. And we could say, oh, well, let's just ask two exchanges. But then we just go back to a centralized party and exchanges could lie. We could also say, oh, let's just make an on-chain exchanges. But then people could just manipulate the on-chain exchange by buying or selling large quantities of asset just before the time the price is checked. Insurance products. So we already spoke about the crop insurance, about weather condition, about would there be a flood, would there be some swarm of insect. All of that, you need to know that to pay the insurance or not. and you need an oracle for it. Something which is already live is the hurricane protection, where you get some insurance against hurricane. And again, the question is, did a hurricane pass through the location I paid an insurance for? So we see that it's a really interesting problem with a lot of use cases which can be unlocked if you get this oracle functioning. So now we're going to look at potential solution. Like the easiest one is just to say, well, let's just go back to some centralized party that's services provided by Oraclize, where Oraclize will pull data from website and put them on chain. That's slightly better than just trusting because they can give proof that they receive the data honestly, so it's auditable. It's auditable, but it's not trustless. So as Alexander says, if you are trying to convince me to why I should trust you, I still need to trust you. So we can know if the oracle misbehaves, but we cannot prevent the centralized oracle from misbehaving. So to decentralize with oracle, most of the proposals use Scheling game principles. So if we ask, was it rainy or was it sunny? If you vote rainy and other people vote rainy, you gain something. If you vote sunny and other people vote it's sunny, you gain something. But if you vote different than the majority, you will lose some asset. So if you don't have the label, this matrix looks symmetrical. So it looks like this game is not giving anything. But once you had the label, it's obvious that most of the people are going to vote for the real outcome if there is no other interference. So the idea is that people know that it was rainy, so people think that the other are going to say rainy because it was rainy, or because they think that the other think that the other think that they're going to say rainy. So people can tend to make this kind of reasoning up to 3 levels. And so everyone says it was rainy because they want to be coherent with the majority. I think the earliest proposal of this kind of system was Trustcoin. Obviously, we don't have identity on chain. I don't even know if we ever are going to be able to have an efficient identity system. So people can make a lot of accounts, so we cannot just get one account, one vote, but we can have some system with 1 token, 1 vote. So here, they ask the coin holder, was it rainy or was it sunny? Most of them answer rainy, and the one who answered sunny are going to lose part of their token to the other in the system. So that can work quite well, but the problem is that it does not scale. Because if you ask everyone to vote on everything, if you just have like 1,000 questions and 1,000 coin holders, that's already 1 million votes, you can see that it's not scalable. It's not a scalable solution. So then we had the Ultimate Oracle proposal by Martin Koppelman, which was never really implemented, which I don't think is secure, but it's important to talk about because it then shaped the other proposal. So the principle of the Ultimate Oracle is just let anyone put some stake in outcome. So you have some party putting stake into it was rainy, some party into it was sunny, and it was rainy, and if after some point no one is putting stake anymore to switch the outcome, the current outcome becomes definitive, and the other outcome is rejected, and people who staked on the rejected outcome lose their stake to people who staked on the correct one. So if we think about the Scheling principle, we could say, well, people are going to mostly stake on the honest answer. But there is still a problem, because it's quite easy to attack if you have a large budget. So let's imagine I want to scam people. I'm going to create a prediction market saying that I'm going to win the Ukrainian election. I'm not even Ukrainian, so that's completely unlikely. And I will have an odd of almost 0, and I will be able to buy share of this market at a really, really cheap price. Then when the market resolves, I'm going to put money into that I was elected as a president. And people are going to put money on the other side. But then if I keep putting money, at some point, even if other people are honest, they're going to think, yeah, okay, I think he did not win the election, but I'm not sure that honest people will be enough convinced to continue putting money on the right side, and so they will stop putting money. So even if you have some honest majority, you can end up having with a bad outcome happening, and not only you can bias the question, but you can also steal the money from the other people who participated in the oracle. So we got some improvement with Augur, where they used their own coin. That's quite interesting because we see a lot of like tokens which are there not really useful just because of like fundraising. Here we have a token which is actually providing an improvement compared to using the base layer token of Ethereum. So we ask people to stake with a rep token, which is the Augur token, and at first it starts quite similarly. But then if you have too much staked into a question, you will have a fork. So in this fork, people will get the base token, the rep token, same way as with ETH in the Ultimate Oracle. But the other side, the losing side, will still get a token, a new fork token, which is now a new token of a new oracle. So we could say, well, like, people are only using this the oracle on the left. So what's the point of the new token, and why would it have any value? If people are using the token on the left, they know so that a market and an oracle question have been resolved incorrectly. So they can now see that correct answerer on the token on the right. So they can now use the token on the right, and then the token on the right will end up having value. So people who made the attack will be able to bias the outcome, but they will end up with token which won't be used and not valuable anymore. Still on some similar scheme, we have real issue, where you can put ETH on both sides, but at any point you can ask an arbitrator to solve the dispute. And the distribution of ETH depends on the ruling of the arbitrator, if there is any. You don't need to get an arbitrator. Most of the markets, they will just solve by themselves when people will stop putting stake on one side. So now what is the arbitrator? You can have a centralized arbitrator, but you get the same problem as before. You can have some multisig, which is slightly better, or you can have a DAO, and that's what we made at Kleros. That's not only for prediction markets, that's not only for Oracle, but that's one of the use cases of the DAO we made. So now we can also see about how to resolve those markets, how to resolve those Oracle questions. We can see that it may not always be obvious. Again, let's go back to Augur question. Will the weather be good for the Bastille Day military parade in Paris tomorrow? So the weather was good, but they considered that the good weather was a subjective definition and that the market and the Oracle answer should be invalid. You had some user who specifically tried to put some market which were misleading. So they asked who will control the house after some election, and after some election, it's still the current party controlling the house because people only get in office a few weeks after. So people interpreted it as like who is going to win the election, but the word was who is going to own, control the parliament at this time, and that's the same party as the party controlling it now. We also had some issue with a question about the fork, where they put some expected date of the fork. The fork was not delayed, but the date was just approximative, and some people get their contract misresolved in their opinion because the fork happened just a few minutes after the date put with the market. So we have still other ongoing dispute on that, and you have some users like Poyo who are actively trying to mislead people and to make markets which are subjective or which are misleading. So it's not just a few edge cases, it's some problem that some people are actively trying to exploit. So we can now ask if we should stay to this, to the letter, or perhaps go into a more traditional legal paradigm, where you look at the intent, you look at what people meant when they started contracting, and not what a machine reading will have interpreted. So thanks everyone.